Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Nice going, baby. You maybe just costed us $250,000.
I what?
Tis the truth. Do you know how much an aquarium would pay for a great white shark? 10,000 a foot. And he was 25 feet if he was a yard. Can you believe that, Paul? 50 foot he was at least. 50 foot.
Hey, Nolan, he's coming back!
Climb aboard.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. My name is John.
And my name is Manster.
Yeah,
first time ever.
Oh, I like that. When somebody many years from now is going through our episodes looking for keys, you know, like in a comic, a key first appearance.
Yeah.
This will be a key episode. It'll be first intro Manster ever.
First intro Manster, yeah.
It's going to sell for 16,000. I don't know. What are they going to have by then? Space credits.
Space credits.
You're probably right with yen. You're probably actually right with yen. All right. So end of summer. We're going to get into the subject of the episode in a second, but a little bit of show notes or show news, I guess to say. So I guess we get a little serious for a second, and that's okay. We're all adults here. Everybody's always saying it's always good to talk about mental health and stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about my mental health because it's not super wonderful, great right now. We don't talk about it on the show very much, but been dealing with a lot of stuff in my life for many years. And, I compartmentalize stuff very well, so I can operate very well, and I've done that for a long time. And I also love the Pint, and I look at the Pint as something that is very important to me because, well, first of all, it's a wonderful distraction for me. It's like almost like a second fun job where I get to create something really fun. And in the last 9 years or so, or 7 years of the show's run, it's been really good for me personally to put some of my efforts into it, distracting me, keeping my head on straight. And the truth is in the last maybe few weeks or month, I'm having some difficulties, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I have no plan for anything to happen with the show other than it to repeatedly come out. Because like you might think, it's not a lot of work, right? I mean, this is awesome. This helps me out so much. I literally get to sit with one of my best friends in the world and have conversations that we would have not recorded, essentially, except for, we don't generally run through box office of stuff when we're just talking, we're essentially doing what we would do when we're hanging out or together. So it's a great relief to me. It's a great thing to put my efforts in towards. But the truth is there are some days where as in the past, I would power through maybe a particularly bad day with some stuff, or, just say, fuck it, I got to get this episode out this week. And I'm kind of getting to the point where, and I've realized this forever, but maybe there might be some weeks where I don't have it in me. And I guess the reason I'm telling everybody this is because I respect and love all the Pint listeners. And I think that maybe a lot of you look forward to us weekly, and I want you to look forward to us weekly. But I guess what I'm saying is that if maybe we miss a week, or if we're gone for 2 weeks, or we don't put out something that we said we were going to put out because it was just hard to get together because of what's going on right now, don't be upset. Don't unsubscribe. We're not pod fading. We're not going anywhere. We're going to still be around. It's just one of those things where I'm going through a little bit of a rough patch. I have been, honestly, for quite a long time. But
sometimes you need a mental health day or week or month even.
Yeah. I don't know, my cauldron, my soup bowl is starting to overflow a little bit. And again, you might hear me say this and go, oh, he's being, this sucks. And then the next 2 months episodes come out just like they would. That's what I want. That's what I plan on. I just wanted to let you guys know in case, we miss a week or something, that it's just, we'll be back. This isn't the end. I feel kind of weird saying it that way because I feel like I'm putting an importance on our show to the average listener that might not be there. But, I like to know when things are going on in terms of like, hey, I love this podcast and, why didn't they put out an episode of this week? I hope they come back, so we are coming back. There's, the plan is nothing to change, but, it just comes down to, there might be a day or a week where we record something and I just don't feel like doing anything with it that week. Because that's just kind of where I'm at right now. I'm working on some stuff and that's, I don't know. I hope this all makes sense. I kind of put this out I wanted to thank the Pint Insiders because I put this out to the Pint Insiders. By the way, Patreon/ the Pint Insider, $2.50 a month. You can go there and get my mental health news early.
Mental health notes.
Yeah, along with bonus episodes and some really other fun stuff. But and
I'm thinking of putting some stuff up there.
Jam it.
Some slow periods because I haven't done that.
And we also discussed, and I don't want to promise this out there, but it's very possible that maybe in a week that we can't get an episode out, maybe releasing I hate to say the word classic because are any Pints classic, but maybe re-releasing an older episode just to maybe tide you over. And also an older episode that would have been long enough ago back that, it's enjoyable again. I'm not going to put out like our deep rising episode from, well,
no.
that came out in June. Here you go.
It won't be Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But it might be Crunchy Sock. Who knows?
Crunchy Sock is, Bride of Frankenstein. That I actually, Manster. So Manster's the one who brought up the idea of doing these classics possibly. And one of the first ones I thought of was Bride of Frankenstein, which had our Crunchy Sock joke in it. So, yeah. So that's it. I'm not trying to be too heavy. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. We love all of our listeners, and I think it's important that everybody out there knows. And I'm okay. I don't want anybody to start going, got to put John on a watch or nothing. Everybody on Earth struggles with mental health at some point or another, and it gets heavy sometimes. So that's all. Everything will be good. So, Manster, let's get into this week's episode.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
This might be one of those forgotten type of movies. It is called Orca, the Killer Whale, released on July 22nd, 1977. This was kind of a follow-up of that whole milieu. Is that a word?
It's a word. I don't know if it's the word you're looking for.
Subgenres of movies that came out following Jaws. People trying to cash in on that. So if you've never seen Orca, really quickly, it's a shark hunter, a marine biologist, and a Native American face off against a killer whale who is seeking vengeance for the death of his mate.
This is the most vengeance-seeking animal of all time.
Right.
Of all time.
And I got some notes on that later. So I'm going to start here with, the executive producer of this is a guy that we all pretty much like. If you're a follower of the Pint, I think you probably like this guy's movies. Dino De Laurentiis. He did a lot of Stephen King movies. Plus, we've done, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. We've done Bound, Red Dragon. These are all produced by him. But he is not the producer. He's the executive producer. The producer is first-time and only producer, Luciano Vincenzoni.
Oh, that sounds like you just ordered something at a fancy Italian restaurant.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, his only producing credit, but he is also the writer of this movie. He is known as basically an Italian script doctor, the script writer for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and lots of other spaghetti westerns, in addition to the movie Raw Deal. Wrote that too.
Oh, Schwarzenegger, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He did a lot of work with Sergio Leone, so you get this whole Italian vibe going on. So De Laurentiis and Vincenzoni pulled aboard another Italian film writer, Sergio Donati, who also was into spaghetti westerns. He did Once Upon a Time in the West, also did Raw Deal. So that was a little connection between those two. Also worked a lot with Sergio Leone. So I think these guys were kind of tight. What was not credited as far as in the credits of this film is the source material. which was done by novelist Arthur Herzog III. He had an Orca novel.
Oh, I didn't know this was based on a novel.
So that's it for the writer. The director of this movie is English film director Michael Anderson. Michael Anderson had just come off a classic 1976 sci-fi Logan's Run. Recall that?
Yeah. I've never seen it, but yeah, I knew he was the director.
So that was a big one for him. But he was also involved with some other stuff that, we're talking back in the 70s and 60s. So not a whole lot of people might remember some of this stuff, but he did All the Fine Young Cannibals, which was the first movie with Robert Wagner, #murderer, and Natalie Wood.
Yeah. All right, you said it. I did. Well, hey, look.
Yeah, kind of a joke. It's not. Nothing's ever been proven.
Christopher Walken was on that boat too.
He was.
Yeah.
Do some Christopher Walken. I love your Christopher Walken.
There's a good chance that it was Bobby Wagner. I'm good friends with him. Yeah, but could have been me.
Excellent. So also obviously inspired the rock band, Fine Young Cannibals. He was also nominated for Around the World in 80 Days, another popular film back then. He did this TV series Martian Chronicles. So Ray Bradbury, I liked that. I was into that. And the TV movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Nice.
I'm going to go a little bit deeper here because I think this movie deserves some of this credit. Cinematography by J. Barry Heron. Also did the Airwolf TV show. And this guy is into whales because he did another whale movie called A Whale for the Killing. It was a TV movie with Dee Wallace, Peter Strauss, and Bruce McGill.
Wow.
And he was also involved, probably like assistant director and stuff like that, with Friday the 13th Part 6. Your favorite
Stu's
one?
favorite. Stu's favorite, that piece of shit. Yeah. Not Stu. Stu's not a piece of shit, the movie.
Right. Yeah, you might have to edit that. And Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I love that.
And then one more, also cinematography by Academy Award winning Ted Moore, who did 7 of the 60s and 70s James Bond films, all the way from Dr. No, Goldfinger, Live and Let Die.
No, wait, you said cinematography twice. Were there 2 cinematographers?
Yeah, 2. There's 2 cinematographers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yep. And Ted Moore also did Clash of the Titans, the classic Harry Hamlin movie.
I love that.
Some
Saw it in
really,
the drive-in.
Really bad claymation, but
hey, that's Harryhausen, right? That's good stuff.
Yeah. And then music by Ennio Morricone, another spaghetti western Sergio Leone guy. So that's why I'm mentioning all these people. Fistful of Dollars, The Thing. We did The Thing. He did that. Once Upon a Time in America. Obviously, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Untouchables, and The Hateful Eight, another one we did. Very ethereal musical score. And then you got the underwater, whale sounds. So a lot of cool stuff with soundscape in here. And basically, due to the success of Jaws, De Laurentiis told writer, Luciano Vincenzoni, to find a fish tougher and more terrible than a great white. And go ahead and watch the movie and you'll understand why that is the case.
It truly is. This is one of many films that came out very shortly after Jaws. Piranha. Yeah. There was one called Barracuda. There's some Italian. There's an Italian one called The Great White, I think, that stars Vic Morrow, and it's such a terrible Jaws ripoff. It was sued by the producers of Jaws, and you couldn't see it for years. I watched it on Tubi a few years ago. It's fucking awful, but it's fun to watch.
Really?
These movies, well, yeah, because look, think about it. In 1977, Star Wars came out, was a huge, huge hit, and it spawned all these like space operas and all this shit. And in 1975, Jaws is the first summer blockbuster ever, made $1 trillion. So everybody said, we've got to make one of these movies. We've got to make one of these monster in the water movies. And that's, that's what this is. It's a monster in the water movie, essentially.
It is. So the main orcas used for filming. So I did like a lot of the orca like shots underwater and swimming and jumping and all that. They were trained animals from the Marine Land of the Pacific in LA County, and also Marine World Africa which is also, it's called Six Flags Discovery Kingdom in Redwood City, California, not in Africa. And there was a little bit of rubber whales in this, and as far as I could tell, they were pretty damn good looking rubber whales.
Did you read about the rubber whales? What happened with them?
They actually ignited some animal rights activists.
Yeah,
who confused them for real orcas. Yeah,
they were so good looking that it didn't say, it said rights activists. I'm assuming, I don't know if PETA was a thing then, but they said that they, like the trucks that were transporting them, you could kind of see them, and they were forming blockades, like to not let them. And they're like, "Hey, dummy, this is a fucking rubber whale, you asshole."
Yeah, it's like that one that you go to. What's that? Cabela's. I remember they had a big shark. They were transported to Cabela's.
Yeah, silly people.
So this thing was filmed from June 14th, 1976 to October 1976, largely in Petty Harbor, Newfoundland, and Labrador. I didn't know that was. You gotta put those two together. That's all part of the same province.
Like Turks and Caicos, you have to say Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah,
okay.
You have to say Newfoundland and Labrador. Labrador being the land portion, Newfoundland being the island portion, which is the easternmost province of Canada. For those of you who want a little geography, north of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. So it's cold up there.
Yeah.
And then so most of the film was located there, and then the ice, the Arctic ice scenes, that was filmed in the island of southern European island country of Malta.
Yeah, I read that they couldn't find like the correct kind of ice patterns they wanted to use, so they had to go to Malta. Yeah.
Yep, and Malta is between Sicily, so Sicily is at the end of the boot of Italy.
Right.
And then you go a little south of there, and between there and northern Africa, that's where Malta is. Beautiful place.
Geography with the Manster, everybody.
Yeah. That's it. That's my lesson. I'm done.
All right, let's talk about the cast.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
Everyone! All right, we'll start right off with the star of the film, Richard Harris. He plays Captain Nolan, who is an Irish fisherman who is living in Newfoundland and Labrador. You know him from films such as Unforgiven, the 1962 version of Mutiny on the Bounty. He was also Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter films. He died in 2002, and Michael Gambon took over for him as Dumbledore. Richard Harris, 46 years old in this movie, looks 66. Sorry, Richard Harris, but you don't look 46. Also, at 46 years old, he insisted on Tom Cruising it, for all of the ice stunts at the end. And they said he almost died multiple times. Two other quick things about Richard Harris in this movie. Apparently, during the filming of this movie, he was a nightmare to work with because he saw like a tabloid that showed a picture of his beautiful wife, Ann Turkle, on a beach with a younger man. And he started drinking heavily. So he essentially saw 1977's version of Instagram, and he saw his woman with a guy on a beach somewhere. And he spent the whole movie steaming over this. And he actually was plotting on going to Malibu, California to kill them.
Yeah.
And the producer had to stop him, and everything turned out okay. He didn't kill anybody, or at least that we know of, or at least them. Maybe he murdered a hobo to let it out of his system. I've heard that's a good way to let go of rage.
He certainly murdered an orca.
Yeah, he certainly did murder an orca. Yeah. Also the other thing is he was apparently really proud of this role. And if you would say to him like that it was like a Jaws knockoff, he would get pissed off at you. Yeah. So that's kind of cool that Richard Harris enjoyed this one.
My biggest Richard Harris memory is, did you ever see A Man Called Horse?
No.
Oh man. He gets hung up at Indian ritual or Native American ritual where they take, I don't know, like eagle claws and they stick them through your chest. And then they hoist you up and you just hang there from these claws in your chest for like 24 hours or something until you have this, like mental epiphany or whatever.
Fuck that.
Yeah, he did that. I don't know if he did that, his scene, that stunt on his own, but man, did that rip his chest.
No, he
real to me.
He insisted on doing the ice scenes in Orca, but when it comes to getting Native American hung until you hallucinate, he's like, I'm not going to do that one. You could get the stuntman for that. I'm not doing it. All right. So next in the line here, we have Charlotte Rampling playing Rachel Bedford, who is a marine biologist, I think, in this movie. We just talked about her. She was an Angel Heart, and she was also in the 1970s Sean Connery in a giant adult diaper futuristic movie Zardoz.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Never saw it either. I never saw it either. I was in Zardoz. Fucking movie. Will Sampson plays Umalak, who is a Micmac, a Native American, or I'm sorry, I guess Inuit maybe? Is that? I don't know what. Yeah.
Inuit? Yeah.
Yeah. He was from one of Lloyd's favorites, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, also in Poltergeist 2, and died very young. Terribly young. He was a painter and a rodeo star before he became an actor. And he was a Muskogee Native American for real. Bo Derek plays Annie. Of course, if you've ever seen Tommy Boy, a slightly older Bo Derek. But if you were, from the early 80s, you know, stuff such as 10, Tarzan the Ape Man. Just think about any movie that Lloyd at like 13 years old would be whacking off to.
Yeah, you got it.
That's who Bo Derek was. Keenan Wynn.
Her first screen appearance too.
This
movie was her first screen appearance. Yep.
She's certainly young. She's certainly definitely young in this.
Not the first one she filmed, but the first one released.
Okay. Keenan Wynn plays Novak, the oldest boat hand and also the baddest ass dude until he gets killed. This guy is 70 years old easily, and he's shimmying up masts and cutting cables and doing shit that like the younger guys in the boat don't do. Keenan Wynn was in the Shaggy DA, the original one from like 1976. And also, as a kind of a crossover, as we talked about these type of like Jaws ripoff movies, if I shouldn't say that, the ghost of Richard Harris is going to kick my fucking teeth in. He was also in Piranha. If you've ever seen Piranha, he's the old neighbor guy that ends up getting eaten by piranha. So he was eaten by a piranha or by a group of piranha and a fucking orca. This guy's badass. Robert Carradine plays Ken. He is like an associate of the Rachel character, the Charlotte Rampling character. You know him, of course, as Louis Skolnick from Revenge of the Nerds and Ghosts of Mars and Escape from LA, a couple of John Carpenter films. And as Lloyd mentioned before, the orcas were Yaka and Nepo. Yaka passed away in 1997, and Nepo died just like 2 or 3 years after this movie released in 1980. I don't know what they died of, but I'm assuming it was something that whales die of.
Old age.
Whale age.
Yeah, Nepo was pretty old.
Nepo was 216 years old, and most old whales only make it to 250, and so he was up there. He was up there. All right, so let's talk about this movie. Let's talk about what's going on in it. We open up on a scene, our boat. We have our captain, and we have all of his people on it, and he's hunting a great white shark. Yeah, his whole purpose in this movie is he's trying to hunt certain sea creatures. Great white shark is the first one. So he could sell it to an aquarium to make up enough money to pay off his boat and to pay off his mortgage and to get back to Ireland, right? Because they said he moved to Ireland or moved from Ireland to Canada or Newfoundland and Labrador 20 years prior. And now he's trying to get back. So he's hunting a great white shark. Meanwhile, Rachel and Ken are diving and doing marine biologist shit at the bottom of, I don't know. They're in the ocean, but it's almost.
They're just doing marine biologist shit.
They're like in an inlet of some sort. They're not that far out. So Manster, what ends up happening with this great white shark? Do we have an early attack scene right off the bat? Yeah, and also, do we have an early fuck you to Jaws right off the bat?
So Ken is out there, and there's some underwater scenes where was it Ken that was underwater, or was it her?
Yeah, her and Ken. No. I'm sorry. She was underwater. Ken was on the boat.
So she gets wedged. She wedges her. She sees the shark coming, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. She has this thing with a stone. She's trying to hide basically from the shark.
Yeah, so I don't know
I think I can just hide and it won't notice me.
She goes in between this little like crevasse, which is fine, but then she takes like this very small rock and tries to cover herself with it, and
I don't know what she's trying to do with that.
All she ends up doing is dropping the rock and like it's a dog, the shark is like, what?
I was gonna say the exact same thing. You hear like a whoomp, like when the rock hits the ground, when I don't know that sharks respond to that, but this one sure did.
Oh, it did.
It's like when Fletch goes, look, defenseless babies. And the Dobermans go, whoop.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she gets out, and then Ken's in the water afterwards. He's on the raft, the lifeboat, and he's in the water himself, and it's coming after her. That's coming after him. And he's swimming back, and you've got the classic, shark chasing a guy swimming scene, and you don't think he's going to make it. And at one point, I didn't. I thought the shark got him, but an orca comes kind of just bailing through across and just nails that shark, eats that fucking shark, and that's where we first see the orca.
This orca. So Rachel gets on the Bumpo, which is Richard Harris's boat.
Right, the Bumpo.
And Ken's on the little speedboat, Zodiac or whatever, and he gets knocked into the water, and as Lloyd said, the shark's coming after him. All of the shark footage, by the way, in this scene was filmed by Ron Taylor, who is the guy, he's a known shark photographer, hunter, who, along with his wife, Valerie, did a lot of the real shark footage for Jaws, like the cage stuff. And whenever it's a real shark, it's them that filmed it. This fucking killer whale comes at this shark at 800 miles an hour.
Right.
And this killer whale, Orca, as we might call him, he has a repeated motif in this movie. He just headbutts fucking everything. He's big on headbutting shit and sinking shit. So he headbutts this great white shark at 290 miles an hour. And I got to tell you, because I know it was much different back in the day, like with animal cruelty and stuff. But did you feel like you were actually watching video of a real shark dying? Like, how did they, like, when it's like in all the blood in the water and everything?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and it was pretty realistic.
It looked a little bit more realistic than I would have liked it to look. I'm thinking, did they kill a great white for this movie? I've never heard that.
Can you imagine? Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too. But like, it's also kind of like, I know the joke in Jaws of the Revenge people make is that the shark makes like growling sounds. The shark, when the shark gets hit in this movie, it's definitely making like screaming sounds of some sort. There's
all kinds of screaming sounds in this movie.
There's a couple of fucking really upsetting scenes in this movie, and this is the lesser of the two. But like, I felt bad for this man-eating motherfucker, like, because this whale fucked it up. And this is a true thing. Killer whales kill great white sharks all the time. And you know what the creepiest thing is about killer whales killing great white sharks? And even scientists aren't 100% sure why. I've known this for a while. This wasn't an orca fact.
Okay.
Is a lot of times when a killer whale kills a great white shark, all they do is eat its liver.
Ooh.
Like it's fucking Hannibal Lecter of the sea.
Yeah, right.
They eat its liver and let the body just fucking drop to the bottom of the ocean or float
so
up.
that's what they do. So he's tenderizing it. He just goes in, he breaks all the ribs with the headbutt.
Yeah.
And then goes for the liver right behind the ribs. That's my theory.
Do you think sharks have ribs? I don't know if they do.
It's got those shark ribs.
Shark ribs. I think if sharks had ribs, they'd probably be pretty like fucking like delicious, like giant, like, barbecue
right?
Shark ribs. Yeah. So everybody survives and the Bumpo, takes off. And then we get what can only be described, and we've done this in the show before, as exposition the scene, which is Rachel teaching her class. I don't know why Rachel lives in this bumpkiss ass village, this fishing village, yet somehow she teaches in some kind of, I don't picture there being a college anywhere near this village.
Right.
But
yeah, she's lecturing somewhere.
Yeah. And what does she tell us about killer whales, Manster? She tells us everything.
All be boiled down to this. I mean, she does give a lot of information, but I'll boil it down to this. And please forgive me for the word I'm going to use, because it's her word. Basically, humans are retarded compared to orcas.
Yeah, she does say that.
That's what it all boils down to. In her words, she shows the brains of the dog, of a chimp.
Yeah,
it's a human and an orca.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically she talks about the language. Humans communicate with language, but orcas communicate with like sonar. And it gets so deep that they can feel the emotions of people and they can sense what they're feeling. And so to an orca, we're just subspecies.
She kind of said, did you understand this? Because this is what I thought she said. An orca, like, vocalization could be heard around the world by other orcas.
It's like a hive mind networking kind of thing.
Yeah, and she said something like I think she said the most, I don't remember how she put it, but the most sophisticated computer can communicate like 4,000 parcels of information to something else per second, and like an orca, its song is like 18 trillion pieces of information in 1 second. It's like,
right.
Why have they not taken over the Earth yet?
I almost kind of feel like it was all bullshit, but
yeah,
maybe it's just a little, hyperbole.
I feel like maybe if orcas developed legs, we'd be super fucked.
Right? Yeah,
super fucked, because if they can get on the land and they're this smart,
I think you just had that great idea for a movie.
Yeah, land orca. Yeah,
land orca,
biped orca. So we find out that Captain Richard Harris here, Nolan, attended this class and listened to her lecture.
I find it kind of weird that this guy who's a fisherman doesn't know anything about orcas.
Can I be honest with you? He seems kind of like a shit fisherman. Like, he seems like a shit fisherman.
Yeah.
So he kind of talks to her, he kind of flirts with her a little bit. And we talked about this in episodes before too, whether we like voiceovers or not. She has a voiceover that's in this a few times. It's so fucking unnecessary because it's only like in the beginning and the end. And it's just there to tell you like quick little bits of information that you're actually seeing on the screen. So I didn't know why they did that, but he's kind of got the hots for her. She's good looking and everything. She finds out that he is setting up like this kind of like, I don't know, I give him credit for figuring this out, some kind of net enclosure in like this inland outlet of water, that kind of like a bottleneck in the ocean. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm not trying to catch that great white anymore. I'm going to catch the fucking orca because that motherfucker is worth money. And, she's like, after everything I told you, like she showed him a video, during her class that like orca babies look like humans almost. They've got fucking fingers. They don't have flippers. Their fingers turn to flippers.
They look like a little human facing you with their arms straight out with 5 fingers coming off their hand.
They look like they look at you and are saying like up, like, oh, you're like, oh, that orca baby's so cute. Wait, just wait. Just wait. So, she tells him, she's like, like you're fucking crazy. He's like, I'm going out, I'm catching this fucking thing. And that's what he does. He goes out with his crew and, they go out to hunt down these orcas. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen this movie more than once. This is a fucking unsettling scene. Like, I don't care who you are. It's cringy. It's not even cringy. Like, it's not cringy as if like, oh, they shouldn't have done this. It's just a terrifying fucking scene. At one point when they're out on the water hunting the orca down, is that when the orca hits the boat the first time and breaks Bo Derek's leg before everything happens, or is that after everything happens?
Oh, that's after.
Okay. So basically I don't think it matters. We'll get to
I don't think it matters. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It might be.
So basically we have these two orcas, a male and a female, and the male's bigger and he's trying to get the male. The male's who he wants. Takes out his harpoon gun. He goes out onto the point of the boat, whatever you want to call that. Not the crow's nest is up. This is like all the way in the front of the boat. He gets his harpoon gun and he fucking takes a shot at the male. He clips the male's dorsal fin. So that's how we're going to recognize this fucking monster through the whole movie, because it has a chunk bitten out of its dorsal fin. And he harpoons the female. And it starts to fucking scream. And Manster, how did you feel about the scene?
I don't like the screaming orcas because it's just brutal.
Yeah.
And so when she gets nailed, and that was a pretty harsh scene. Like the scene of the harpoon going in, it like caved in like the skin.
Yeah.
The outer shell, and it was pretty brutal looking. I don't know that it really looked like that, but anyway. And she just starts swimming around, and it's like, what does she immediately go like towards the boat into the propeller?
Yeah, so she gets wrapped up in the anchor or the harpoon line, and she's just all wrapped up and she's all fucked up. And then she swims.
She's just fucked up. They said it looks like she was committing suicide.
Yeah, I again, like, are they are we saying that orcas are that smart? They're supposed to be really smart. She starts ramming herself into the propeller of this whole scene is awful.
All the way, the whole length of her body.
Rips herself up, rips herself absolutely up. And of course, they're trying to stop her from doing this because they want to sell this orca. So, and there's like this great scene where I think after Richard Harris's character, Nolan, realizes what he does, he's like, Jesus Christ. Cause even he's kind of like, what the fuck? Everybody's kind of like, what the fuck's going on? So he gets Novak, his badass old guy, to fucking, get the winch going. And this orca lifts out of the boat, and is just hanging there. I don't know if this boat could support the fucking weight of a killer whale, but it does. And now it just gets worse because as this mammal is up there screaming and bleeding everywhere. There's no other way to put it. We get a whale miscarriage. This whale was pregnant, and we get a slow motion of this fetus whale, very much like what they showed us in the school scene.
Probably 2 feet?
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Pink,
about 2 feet tall. Pink.
Kind of does look like, maybe like some kind of humanoid form, giant bulbous fucking head, plops out of the mama whale and just hits the fucking deck. But meanwhile, while all this is happening, there's just screaming going on everywhere from the whale. And we just have the male whale, Orca. This is the first of 1,800 close-ups on this fucker's eye.
Yeah.
As he watches Nolan staring at him like, you motherfucker.
Yeah, I think he just starts screaming, right? Bellowing out, and I don't know, his head's kind of going up and down, like he just can't believe what he's seeing. And yeah, like you said, after the fetus comes out and he sees it, and then he's like, get that thing off the boat, and they spray it off into the ocean.
Yeah, they use a hose to blow it off the deck. Yeah.
And the orca is just bellowing and screaming. When he decides it's time to go, I guess he tilts his head, right? And he gets his eyeball out of the water.
Oh, he does it multiple times. He's
just looking right at Nolan, for a good, I don't know, 5 seconds of whale eyeball.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to really believe in whale vengeance for this movie to work because, they call Jaws the Revenge, its tagline is famously, this time it's personal. Mm-hmm. That should have been Orca's tagline.
Oh, that's fucking personal.
This is the initial, sea creature personal vendetta movie.
Yeah.
He is imprinted on Nolan. So this is now just going to be a fight to the death, which is crazy to think because you would think, well, how could it be a fight to the death? Nolan can just go on shore and be done with it. But this fucking whale, man, this whale does some crazy shit. So it starts to pick off the crew one by one, starting with Novak, right?
Does he do it? Yeah. Or does he do the, he gets him first, right?
Novak is going to drop the female. The whale finally dies, right? Because she's not dead. Because they even say she's still alive. And he tells Novak, he's like, look, you're 70 years old. Go skimmy up that pole. And I need you to cut the line to drop that 18,000 pound fucking monstrosity off the boat. And Novak just fucking jumps up on the line and gets up there and cuts the whale off. And as he's about to scurry back down, male orca, revenge orca, crazy orca, does one of his fucking patented 18 feet out of the water dolphin leaps and just pulls fucking Novak into the water. They never make you think he's eating anybody, but he's drowning people. Have you ever seen the video?
He's grabbing them with his mouth and just pulling them under. Yeah, I don't think he's eating them.
Have you ever seen that documentary called Blackfish about oh man, it's a hard watch. It's about SeaWorld and their abuse of the orcas that they use for their shows. And they have footage of some of those whales fucking playing with the handlers. And multiple times what they'll do is they'll grab you and bring you to the bottom of the water until you can't breathe no more. And they bring you back up. So you get a good gulp of air and then they bring you back down again. Yeah, dude, you gotta, I don't want to tell you gotta watch it because it's upsetting. It was an upsetting watch. I saw that years ago, but or maybe you could just YouTube like killer whales attacking trainers. Like there was one where it broke a guy's leg and just kept bringing him to the bottom of the tank. They've killed some people. Some people have lived, but like if these things grow legs, we're all fucked. That's all I'm saying. If they can get out of the water, we're all fucked. So Nolan goes back to land, and he's kind of, fucked up about what happened. And he starts to run into problems with like I don't know, is he like the secretary of the boatyard? Like the guy just starts
in the meantime, the whale pushes his mate all the way to shore.
Oh, right.
And it's a really incredible scene. It goes on quite a ways. It seems like it's a 10-minute scene of orcas just swimming through the water. But he pushes his mate all the way. And so he pushes his mate there. And I think you see Charlotte Rampling there just collecting data, doing whatever she's doing. And then that's also where you meet the big Native American dude. What's his name?
Umalak.
Umalak, yeah. Yeah, and he reinforces what she says to him about the whales and, their vengeance. And, basically they're like Jaws 4.
Yeah, he starts talking about like, his connection to them and kind of getting like, Inuit Native American spiritual on him and saying, you've started something that, that now has to be finished. And through the whole thing, Nolan is like, I don't want nothing. Look, this happened. It's terrible. But, I'm not fighting this whale because everybody keeps pushing him in that direction. And as I said, like the boatyard guy comes to him and says like, look, we fixed your boat up. Move along. Like, because what's happening here is your whale is starting to scare off all of the fish that would normally populate this area. And we're fishermen. And that's what we do for a fucking living is we fish. And if there's a killer whale here, this is essentially the mayor from Jaws, this guy, where it's like, no, don't take the signs off. Let everybody swim. It's 4th of July. I owe the mafia money. All this stuff. He tells him, you got to get out. You got to take your boat and get the fuck out of here.
You got to go deal with this whale thing, Well,
he doesn't tell him to deal with the whale first. He just wants him kind of to get out. And Nolan is like, look, I got to make my nut and I can get out of here. But then what starts to happen is the whale starts to do crazy fucking shit.
Crazy shit.
Sinking almost every boat in the yard except for Nolan's. Like he's trying to prove a point. Like, and he's calling him out. He starts this motherfucker with the headbutting. He headbutts every fucking boat. He's knocking boats over and it's crazy. So eventually what happens?
He even, not only the boats, but at one point he goes and, he breaks some pipelines.
Dude, he's a domestic terrorist.
A village on fire, and he knows somehow that it's gonna travel up to their fuel reserves, like this big tank.
Yeah,
everything fucking blows out. This is the smartest orca ever.
This is the smartest, most dangerous orca of all time. He causes a gas leak and blows up like half of the village and their fuel reserves to the point where, and we're kind of moving through this fast, to the point where they decide, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here, right? Like we have to get the fuck out of here, and move on to the next village. And he sends one of his mates to go get gas. And the gasoline station attendant's like, we're not going to fill your tank up. And they're starting to figure out is what's happening is they're not going to let them leave the village. What they're trying to force them to do is you got to go fight that whale, which is fucking nuts, right? Which is fucking nuts. We start to dig a little bit deeper into the mind of the Nolan character. We have a flashback. He starts to have like visions of the miscarriage of the whale. And then he sees this car crash and he eventually tells Rachel, his wife, and I think either newborn or she was pregnant. Unborn were killed in a car crash.
Yeah.
So they're trying.
Eye-rolling moment.
It was eye-rolling because it's like they're trying to make you feel bad for him,
right? But
you would think he would feel bad for what he did, which he doesn't seem to throughout the whole movie. We mentioned before at one point the orca attacks things with its head multiple times in this movie, so it's hard to remember. But at one point, it attacks the boat, and Bo Derek falls and breaks her leg. So as all this is happening, as everybody's trying to push them out to the sea to fight this orca, the last straw is Richard Harris has this shanty house. It's a stilt house on water.
It's a stilt house over the water.
Yeah. And Bo Derek's just like spending a nice night at home. Her
Right,
boyfriend,
she's having some wine.
she's having wine. Her boyfriend is at the gas station not getting gas.
Yeah, okay.
Richard Harris is trying to get his shit together because he knows they have to leave because they're trying to escape and the whale knows everything. The fucking whale headbutts the stilts on the house, right? And what happens here? What happens?
He can smell Bo Derek, I guess. He knows she's in there. So what happens is he starts attacking like several headbutting scenes, the stilts of the house, and little by little, the house just becomes a slide into the water. And at this point, Nolan is in the house, right? And is what's his name? Ted? Is he back?
The boyfriend comes back.
Yeah.
So she slides.
She slides all the way down that now the floor, which is now angled directly into the water. And she can't get back up. She's got literally a cast that covers her toes, and it goes right up to her crotch.
Right.
Like there's no way she's moving that leg at all. So she can't move. And they throw some kind of net or something down to her. And so she's half dangling into the water, or, at the very bottom of the floor, at least, and holding on to that. And then Richard Harris, he takes a tumble, doing his own stunt.
Yeah, almost died too. Almost got eaten by the actual orca.
Right. And then you just see this amazing scene of the orca swimming up. You see the swimming, and then you see Bo Derek's face, and she's just got this look on her face like, oh no. And then the orca just bites her leg right off.
The casted leg.
Casted leg, yeah. And if I paused the movie at this point because I noticed it looked kind of funny, and sure enough, it's not really a cast. It's just like a carved leg, carved out of wood. And he bites it, and he just like snacks on it, takes it into the ocean, and then she just collapses there. I don't know that did she die or they save her?
The ambulance comes and take her away. And this is where we get the Sean in the estuary moment in Jaws where Brody realizes he has to go. This is where Nolan's like, well, I've got to go. I've got to fight this fucking thing. How stupid is this that I have to go fight a fucking orca on the ocean? But I'm going to go do this. So he takes with him, his first mate there, I think it was Peter or Ted, whatever his name was. Umalak goes because Umalak is just like, I hate to say it, but he's really like a stereotypical native character.
Every character in this movie is really just sort of playing this one tiny little role for a purpose and nothing else,
Umalak is really, really milking the whole like mystic Native American thing in this movie, but he goes, Rachel goes, and Ken, who is Rachel's assistant, goes as well. So they go out and they start to follow the orca. And the orca is like leading them on, like telling them where they're going to fight. This thing, I'm super glad that I've never had a beef with an orca, because if you get on the water,
he's practically like using his flippers to say this way.
There's one point where he does something like that, like with his head, and like Umalak is like, he's leading us into the ice cap. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Just get on your boat and go the opposite fucking way. Fast. Opposite way. Fast as you can. Get into like a heavy shipping lane and maybe maybe lead him into like a whaling trap or something.
Yeah, and then just leave,
Just leave.
And don't ever go back.
Just leave. But we know from watching this movie and all the eye close-ups of Orca, he is not gonna be happy until Nolan is dead.
Oh, at one point when he's in that fishing village, he makes a scarecrow of himself.
He does.
Right.
You're right.
Maybe thinking that the orca might get fooled.
He does. He makes and it looked like him too. It was pretty good. Ultra white head, like a pillow. It had like a fucking, like a Richard Harris mop of blondish gray hair. Yeah. There's the scene where they're leaving the port and Richard Harris is like on the deck of his ship, like looking all angry and bitter about this whole situation. And as he's leaving, he's looking straight ahead and he kind of looks over at the dock and it's the secretary of the yard and all the guys that like were pissed at him staring him down. And I can only think of the scene in Tombstone when Curly Bill, after they kill, one of, Wyatt Earp's, brothers, he just looks at him and goes, well, bye. I don't know why it just made me laugh. It made me think of that scene. So they go out into the ice cap, right? So now for the second time in less than like 8 episodes, we have iceberg danger on the Pint because it happened on Titanic and we're back to icebergs again in Orca. And If you thought that wasn't enough, it's the second time in less than 10 episodes that a fucking iceberg hits a ship. We'll get to that in a second. First things first, Ken is the first to go. Ken, who, by the way, the orca saved in the beginning from the great white shark. Ken is up on the crow's nest. He's just checking shit out. And the fucking orca now jumps even higher than it did to kill Novak. It jumps 79 yards in the air. It's actually in orbit. It's actually space-bound.
If you lay a football field on its end up,
2 football fields
all the way to the top. 2 football fields.
It's almost at the sun. And it yanks Ken off of the crow's nest and drags him to the water. And I think it eats him because I think they show a lot of blood, or he exploded on impact. I don't know. So Ken is now dead. They get to a point where I forget his name every time. Peter or Ted, the boyfriend character is next. Ted. He tries to get onto a lifeboat, and the orca kills him, right? Takes the lifeboat down. Mm-hmm. So now it's just Rachel, Nolan, and Umalak. Umalak's
like, we've had enough of this. And Umalak does a little coup. He's like, I'm taking over.
Dude, what's crazy about it is that Umalak is the one, amongst other people, that we're telling him, you've got to go finish this. And then as soon as shit gets hard, Umalak's like, we have to call the authorities. Right. Are you fucking... Yeah, and he's like, he takes a gun out and points it at Nolan and goes, enough of this shit that I forced you into. I'm going to take over now. And he calls up the Coast Guard, and he's like, mayday, mayday, mayday. But meanwhile, they've floated a little bit too close to one of the bigger icebergs, and they hit it. And what happens to Umalak?
The ice just tumbles down on him, buries him alive in ice. And I think what do you see is one hand, sticking out of the top.
It's a horror movie kind of thing.
Man, you ain't recovering from that.
No.
Not ice blocks.
Did you ever think that you'd see a movie where a killer whale uses an iceberg as a weapon?
No.
Today, I saw my own son use a bicycle as a weapon.
And I had never seen Orca all the way before. I had heard of it. I had maybe seen parts of it over the years, but I'd never saw the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he uses an iceberg as a weapon. He starts ramming the boat with the iceberg. Essentially, I'm gonna sink this boat. And he does. He sinks the boat. And before he sinks the boat, Nolan's taking shots at him with a rifle, not hitting anything. So finally he tells Rachel before the boat goes down, he goes get me that fucking harpoon. There's this fucking gnarly looking toss harpoon on the side of the boat. Fucking blade, 7 blades. It looks like a weapon from a martial arts movie you'd see on Channel 5 in New York, in 1982. She gives him that. And as the orca is kind of taunting him, the boat goes down. They jump onto a ice platform.
Some ice, kind of like in what was that? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, a floating,
floating ice panels, whatever.
Yeah,
all over the place. The whole sea is covered with these things.
Yeah. So he takes the fucking harpoon, and in his only the only moment he gets any kind of victory over this orca, other than killing its fucking wife and unborn child, he tosses this harpoon and he fucking nails it, right kind of in the head area, and this thing starts to... It's making all the fucking orca noises. It's screaming. The harpoon's hanging out of it. There's some really great underwater shots where they show the orca go underwater, and it's breaking the harpoon off on some of these ice packs. Rachel gets herself to a safer, steady piece of ice, and now it's just... This is it. It's on man versus orca. I don't know. He has no armaments at all, so I don't know how anybody could think that Richard Harris is... He's got nothing. He's dead.
Does he have a knife? Does he maybe have a knife? I'm not sure.
He doesn't pull it. It's well, how good is a knife in an orca fight? You know what I mean? I'm going to think it's not good at all. So he's on this fucking flotilla piece of ice, and it starts to kind of come at him, and he runs to one side of it, and eventually the orca pulls the shark from Jaws move on Quint, where it comes up on the boat and knocks the boat, and Quint just slides into its mouth. Right. He does that to this piece of ice. He hits it. Manster, what happens?
He lands on the ice, and the ice tips up, very similar to the little shanty house on stilts. And you can't stop yourself from sliding down a piece of ice.
No.
So, he just starts sliding down, and I don't know. Of course, I'm thinking, is he going to slide into his mouth, or what's going to happen? But he slides into the water. He goes down, trying to get some kind of purchase, but he can't, and gets in the water, and I don't know, he's just trying to climb on him and like hurt him somehow, but he gets on the tail of the orca, right? And the orca comes up with this brilliant maneuver. With his tail, he flicks his tail so that Nolan just goes flying and smashes his head right into this like jagged part of the iceberg.
Kills him.
And just fucking slides right down in the, ragdoll death slide right into the water.
He's dead. He got what he deserved, I guess. The orca is like, Rachel's still there, and he doesn't care. He's killed the man he wanted to kill.
No, he's not after Rachel.
The helicopter's coming to save Rachel because Umalak had called, 5-0. So they're coming. Rescue's coming. Nolan's dead, and the fucking orca just leaves. Now, did you notice that this movie at the end credits had what can only be described as like a really weird fucking some lady like fucking bellowing like she's on fire, like this ballady type thing, like the orca killed that motherfucker. It's like really fucking shrill.
I mean, yeah, it is very shrill, and I did because do you own the movie?
Yeah, I do. I bought the Scream Factory from a few years ago.
I couldn't find anywhere to stream it, and then I noticed on YouTube you could watch it. There's like it had a little placard up in the corner. It was like real English movies or something like that, and so you could watch it for free on YouTube. However, I didn't see the opening, and I didn't see the closing beyond the orca just starting to swim away. So I YouTubed Orca ending and watched it a few times and listened to that horrible shrill song. But the orca does not get away. I think the whole point of the movie is that they both die because he cannot escape from underneath of the ice caps.
Okay.
There's nowhere for him to go. They never show it, but they show when I'm watching those end credits, they just show that there's just nowhere for miles and miles. There's nowhere for him to come up and get air.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I never
I'm
looked
pretty
at it
sure
that
that's the intended ending is they both die.
So these two people, well, a man and a mammal, two mammals, I guess, fucking, they cross paths and nothing good comes of it at all.
Exactly.
Nothing good comes of it at all. All right, so that is 1977's Orca. I wanted to discuss this because you know why? This is essentially our last episode of the summer. And so many great podcasts during the summer, some of the ones I listen to, like 3FN and The Contrarians, they've done some really great episodes on, both of them did Jaws 4, The Revenge recently. And it's a very summery thing to do one of these, like, kind of like man versus sea creature. So I said, let's do one ourselves. So, we just did Orca, but I will put this out there that like 3 weeks ago, another, podcast that I'm a fan of and a good friend of the show, Brent, Home Video Hustle, coincidentally did Orca as well. Now, I haven't listened to it myself yet, but I promote you guys go and listen to it. I didn't listen to it myself yet because if I know that we're doing something similar to somebody else, I try not to listen to it because I'm afraid I'm going to repeat shit they say or some of their jokes are going to
anything from them.
I don't want to think I had a funny joke and realize it was theirs. So go check out Home Video Hustle and listen to their Orca episode as well, because I'm going to do that as soon as this one comes out. So, all right, let's talk about the box office of this thing.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
So, being before 1982, Box Office Mojo doesn't really break stuff down like as we usually do by weekend and stuff. So here are the top 5 movies of 1977. And if you really think hard about it, I think you're going to know what number 1 was, but I'm going to tell you anyway. By the way, the Manster, I couldn't find anything. The Manster thinks that he found that this was a $6 million budgeted film. I looked all over for it, couldn't find anything on the budget. So in 1977, the number 5 movie of the year, making, $83 million was The Goodbye Girl, which I believe stars Richard Dreyfuss. So pay attention because he's coming up again pretty soon. Let's see, what else do we have here? Smokey and the Bandit was number 4, $127 million. Saturday Night Fever was the number 3 movie that year, $138 million. The number 2 movie of the year made $166 million, also starred Richard Dreyfuss. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was the worst, by the way. That sounded nothing like it. And the number one movie of 1977, making $196 million, was Star Wars. I'm just calling it Star Wars. I'm not going to do all the... That's it, Star Wars. If you are wondering where Orca landed, it landed 33rd for the year. It made $14.7 million. So if it was a $6 million budget, not too bad. And remember, if you ever encounter the ghost of Richard Harris, don't say bad shit about fucking Orca.
No.
Because he will fucking toss you down a flight of stairs. All right. I think it's time. Let's rate this thing.
Now! What's it gonna be, Doc? Huh? What's it gonna be?
All right. I'm going to go first so that Manster can't give it a 5, because that happens when Manster goes first.
Not this time.
So this is a movie. I just said I owned it, right? So obviously I must like this movie. This is a movie like some of the other movies we've done recently. I think right off the bat of Blue Thunder. I think of Runaway. Movies that I like, that I enjoy, that aren't going to get a high grade, right? This movie is fairly ridiculous. There is some, look, I give it all the credit in the world. There's never a point in this movie comparatively to Jaws, and I love Jaws. Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. But the orcas all look real in this thing, I thought. I couldn't tell if it was the rubber one or if it wasn't. I give it a lot of credit for that. But like the idea behind everything, like one of the things I read, I don't know if you read this, Manster, is that like male orcas could give a shit about their mates and their kids.
I did read that.
Yeah. So like this is a heavy revenge movie, a mammal, underwater mammal revenge movie. And it's about a mammal that like after it comes, it just leaves. So I thought that was kind of funny. Again, the whole idea of everybody is pushing him into fighting this whale, even though he doesn't want to. And the whale literally is a fucking terrorist. It destroys their fuel reserves. It does some ridiculous shit. But there's also good stuff that I really enjoy this movie. The first scene with the great white shark is really good. I don't like it, but the killing of the female whale scene is super memorable. Like that's a hard to forget scene. Like, look, I've seen a ton of movies in my life. I've only seen one movie with a whale miscarriage in it. It's genuinely upsetting. By the time you get to the end and we get to the, I'm going to say from Jaws, the orca versus shark bit, it doesn't hold a candle, obviously, to Jaws if you're comparing it that way. The characters are all very one note. And when you get to the final battle, it's just the whale picking everybody off one by one until he's left. And then he can't fight this fucking thing. Like, again, it's semi-ridiculous. I would have maybe enjoyed it more if there was more of him getting up on the whale, as in like he hits it with a harpoon once, hits it again, weakens it, and then finally dies to it. He hits it with a harpoon once and this thing kicks the fuck out of him, as you would expect would be, in a fight between a 29,000 pound animal and, 180 pound Richard Harris, soaking wet. So I do enjoy this movie. It's fun to watch, fairly ridiculous. But it's a good entry into this, look, don't do it, Richard. Don't do it, Ghost of Richard Harris, but I'm going to say it. The Jaws ripoff genre. I'm going to give it a 2.75. It's better than an average movie. I enjoy it, but it's certainly not really a great movie. Manster, what do you got? Don't give it a 5, Manster.
Yeah. So, one other little tidbit I wanted to do, little fact I found was, Orcanus orca, Orcinus orca, however you say it, is a genus of a Dolphinidae, which is basically, it's a carnivorous mammals known as dolphins. So orca is a dolphin. It is the biggest dolphin, killer whale. So they call it killer whale, but really it's a dolphin.
Yep.
A pretty nasty dolphin at that.
I mean, just to go into news again real quick, did you see like how this summer in like Spain, like orcas were actually really sinking boats, like doing this kind of shit?
Holy shit. No, I didn't notice that. Orca
behavior is like widely kind of like studied, but also kind of like it's an animal people don't understand. Scientists don't fully understand. Huh. If you've never seen it, and I don't suggest you see it because it's gruesome, but like the whole bit where at the end where he swats Richard Harris with the tail, orcas do that to seals, and they do it like they're playing with them. Like there's definitely, like, they might not be revenge monkeys, but they're certainly possibly evil creatures. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So now I'm going to keep it pretty short. So if I were to say to you, all right, I just saw a movie where these people killed a wife and child, they took everything away from him, and they replaced it with like a thirst for justice and vengeance, you'd be saying it's a Charles Bronson film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the Orca is Charles Bronson. And, they're trying to capitalize on the success of Spielberg's Jaws. I get it. And they probably did it the best out of everybody. There's really no character development in this story.
No.
Even, I mean, if anybody at all had any, it would be Nolan. But he's in my mind, he was like floundering back and forth between, it's not my fault. I'm not going to apologize. Oh, I feel kind of sorry for it. Hey, if I said floundering, I just realized that. So I don't know. I didn't really get where he was coming from. And the other characters, like the Charlotte Rampling, the Rachel character, she didn't have any development. She actually regressed, right? Because she was, at the end, they had a brief, I don't know, romantic encounter.
If you could call it that, yeah.
It was completely unnecessary, but first she doesn't, she's like sort of berating him because, all he wants to do is kill an orca or whatever to, pay the mortgage on his boat. Anyway, and she's a marine biologist, so.
Well, not just to jump in real quick, she's so against him hurting these animals or killing this thing.
Yeah,
at the end, when he has the gun, she says to him, "Just shoot it!"
I know.
She's even like, "Fuck this thing now."
Exactly, and the same with Umalak. At the end, he was like, fuck it, don't do what you were gonna do. So I don't know. None of the characters really, I think, had any growth. It is crazy ass movie. There's some good scenes in it, but so much I found of it just dumb.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So, and I wanted to like it more. I really did. I wanted to like it more, but I'm just gonna go straight up 2.5.
All right. I was thinking. I was just look. I get nervous when you go first. You start tossing out all abandoned and giving movies that don't deserve it 4s and 5s. 2.5 is fair. I give it a 2.75. 2.5 is fair. I think we were both very fair to Orca, which in the end really isn't a super great movie.
Right.
It could be an amusing watch. It's kind of silly. So, all right. So that's it for this episode. So we are moving into Deptember. And as of plan right now, Lloyd and I will be recording the first episode next week, which will also be coming out next week, which is the first full week of September. And we will be talking about 1995's Nick of Time. So if you're the kind of person that likes to watch along and check out the films we watch, or talk about, then go find yourself a copy of Nick of Time. I should have wrote down where it is, but you do that part of the work for today. Okay. I already told you I'm a little mentally stressed. Don't fucking push me. All right. just kidding. Manster, tell everybody where they can find us, and then tell everybody that we have to go.
You can find us anywhere where you get your podcast. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at The Pint, a pop culture podcast. Instagram and Threads, it's at The Pint Podcast. And go ahead and become a Patreon. That'd be great. Patreon.com/The Pint. See ya.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!